Good afternoon, everybody. What's going on? Mr. Rob, Mr. Jeff, welcome into you both.
Hope everything's going good. I had to unmute myself. You told me and I still didn't do it.
That's quite all right. That like the countdown screen, you have to put a loop on it, and I always almost forget to turn the loop off like 3 seconds before. I'm like, I'm just gonna restart. So anyway, welcome in, everybody. Excited to talk with Jeff. I think many in here probably know Jeff, which is cool. And Jeff, I was thinking earlier, you were on Vision earlier this year, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, in January.
Some sort of event. Cool. Well, welcome in. We got Rod per the usual. All right. Well, let's jump in with your side of things, Jeff. So we'll kind of take it from the beginning, and then we'll dive into some specifics. I've gotten to know you well in coaching, obviously. You're on my call a lot. You ask great questions. And so I'm excited to have you on here because I think a lot of the stuff that you ask, so like a lot of people come in and you need tactics, right? Like, of course. And so you got to learn all that stuff, but you also need like a healthy dose of like the mindset side. And you always ask like really good questions on that side. So anyway, this was a super long question, but the question is, how'd you get started in real estate media? What did that look like?
Oh, TikTok, baby. I was thinking about it today. I actually have one of your TikToks saved from like 2021 in my phone. And I remember the day I went to lunch with my brother and my dad, and I was like, I think I could probably do this. Like, look at this guy's video. He makes it look so easy. And it's not, but I'm making it work. Like, it's all because of the one random video I saw.
Yeah. Okay. So you saw that video. Were you wanting to start your own business, or like, was there any desire there, or you just saw it and it made sense, or what was prior?
Dude, I think the entrepreneurial spirit is like innate. It feels like it to me. Like, it feels like I was never going to work a 9-to-5, and I just didn't have the vehicle. And I think that real estate media was the vehicle. And like I've said this before in like coaching calls with you, like it feels like a training wheels business of like just learning how to run a business. And like, I think that was always in there from the beginning of like, I was working a job and I was like, dude, I need to be my own boss. Like, I don't think this is going to be the rest of my life. So I saw your video and I was like, okay, this is the path. Cause I was already a photographer. I was like, this is how it's going to happen.
Yeah. And what type of photography were you doing? Just anything before this, or was there something specific, or what did that look like?
I was doing the kind that wasn't making money. I was doing I was doing landscapes. I was doing underwater photography. I bought a case for my camera to go underwater, and like I was doing portraits, and I could have made money doing what I was doing, but I didn't know the business side of it. So I was just like, I was out there doing art and doing creative stuff.
Okay. So, I mean, it was like you would have wanted to make money from it, but it also was, you enjoyed that type of thing.
Yeah. And so it's like, I mean, I have made money with photography before this business. Like I did graduation pictures, I did weddings, and none of it seemed right. Like it was just so ethereal. Everything is so creative, and like that's why real estate media appealed, because I was like, dude, it's the same thing every time, every house. Like you just take the same HDR, put the camera in the corner.
Yeah, no, I mean that's something like I absolutely love about it too, and not a lot of people say that was what drew them in, like that repeat nature of it. So it was that for you because you'd already been doing the other stuff, and you were like, gosh, like this is going to be hard, versus then you see real estate and you're like, okay, it's just you repeated a bunch. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, it's like, I mean, you have your like side of things where you have your videos that you post on Reels and YouTube and stuff like that. And you know that like coming up with video ideas is not easy. And it's like the same thing. I'm going to a portrait shoot, or I'm shooting with like a model, and it's like I have to come up with a new concept every time. And that's a job in and of itself. Whereas going into real estate, it's like, cool, same pictures. And like that definitely drew me in, because you get to that point where I think a lot of people start this business because they're like, I love photography. But then you get to that point where you're like, it's not about photography at all. Like, it's really not. And so it was a good mixture for me to be able to do both.
Gotcha. No, makes sense. And then was there anything else on that? Like that was the main driver? Was there anything else about real estate that stuck out to you, or it was just kind of that?
No, not really. Like I didn't care about houses all that much. I was living at home.
Yeah.
I didn't even have my own apartment at that time. I was like, I don't care about housing. But again, this seemed like a good vehicle.
Okay. Yeah, no, it makes sense. And then, so you jumped in, you obviously started your business. How long ago was that now? I mean, it's been what, like, I don't know. I've lost track of time.
That was, I mean, I saw your first TikTok in 2021. I bought the course back in the day, and then I dragged my feet. I was working a job. I was very like comfortable in my job. I had 2 jobs, and I was just like, I'm not in enough pain to do something else. So I just had the course and didn't do anything with it. And then I ended up moving to Orlando. That's a whole other story in and of itself. But I moved out of my hometown into a new city. And I was like, this seems like the catalyst to get things going. And that was when I joined coaching. And that's when I really kind of considered the start of my business. I had a business in Jacksonville, but it was small.
Yeah. And then you moved to Orlando. Let's talk about the move just for a second, because I think a lot of people, that's a huge unlock for them. Not saying you have to move to be successful, but like, how important was it to you, I think, in terms of like
massively helpful. Like, I look back on it and it was the hardest year. Last year was the hardest year of my life by far, because to get a little personal, I'm living for the first time with my girlfriend. I moved out of my parents' house for the first time. I started a business for the first time. She's my first girlfriend. Like, there's a lot of first, it's a lot of new, and it was a lot of hard. And it was getting away from my family. It was getting away from that whole community. And now that I'm disconnected, but like now that I'm separated from them a little bit more, now when I go home, I'm like, I could have never done it here. I could have never done it in that environment.
It's harder for sure. I think there really is something to like getting a, maybe not fresh start, but I think it's like when you go to start a business, I think a lot of people can resonate with the feeling of imposter syndrome, right? You're like, who am I to do this? What are all these things? And so sometimes when you just break the mold of what you've been around, you don't feel those feelings as hard anymore because you already did something that's not what you're used to. So I think there's a lot of dynamics that play into it. But I mean, a lot of people in our community have been successful. Again, this is not saying you have to move. So if you're listening, you're like, oh, no, you can absolutely be successful where you're from.
There's definitely something to it, though.
There's something to it that just really, it's interesting. It plays a lot. Okay, so you move, you're in the new market. How long ago was that, roughly? I mean, that was what, like 9 months or something ago, a year ago?
Last February. I moved in February 17th of last year. And
okay, so man,
I joined coaching not short after that, or that before that. So yeah.
Okay.
And a whole year.
Yeah. So in a year, you basically went from like, what, $1,000 a month business in Jacksonville or something like that?
And my biggest month was 15 in September of 23, and I moved in February of 24.
Okay. And then since then, last month was the first 10K month. That was the one that was like $20 less, right? Or almost there.
January was the first. It was $17 away.
Not to rub it in, but
no, it's important to my story. And then last month was like 9K. This month is already at 9, and it's going to be over. It's going to be.
You're gonna get it, dude. That's hilarious. That last month was 9 too. It's like,
it's so close. But I talked to a buddy, and he was like, "I mean, there's shorter. It's a shorter month." I was like, "All right, I'll take that excuse to the bank."
Yeah, I'm fine with that. You got So this
plus, not to get like personal about it, but personal things do happen. Which something happened that took me out for a couple of days, and I was like, "That's just the way the news goes. Like that's just how it happens." And so I was not that hard on myself. I was like, okay, I had to go back to Jacksonville for like 5 or 6 days, and I was like, all right. And I still ended up working. I have clients up there still, so I was still trying to drum up some shoots, but like life happens.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. No, and so, okay, so this month, I mean, you're going to hit it. We have 10 days. So that's exciting. And you're probably going to blow way past it, which is super cool. So between then and now, a lot of stuff's happened. Obviously, you were in coaching. I don't want to make this like a huge coaching fest, pitch fest. I mean, say what you will, but you did stuff. You weren't just in coaching. So like, talk to me about, I guess, what's been your primary method of getting clients? Like, did you do the Instagram method, and tell me about that a little bit.
The actual primary method has been Instagram. The way that my brain thinks about it is in-person events. But whenever I'm doing like my actual, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like your lead flow or whatever, seeing where everybody comes from. A third of them are from Instagram. So grand majority are there. But I've gotten some of my VIP clients from in-person events.
Okay. So we talked a lot about Instagram method on here. I think it's kind of the core method for everybody. Let's talk about the in-person stuff, because that's something you do. So what are those and what do you do basically?
So they come in different shapes and forms and packages. But Instagram method for me, like I don't want to talk about it, but I just want to say like why I gravitate in-person events. Instagram method, I have ADHD. Like I think most entrepreneurs do. We can't. It was just so grating to do cold outreach one after another,
over and over and over. Yeah.
Like I know that's part of it is just being bored and doing it anyway, but I just could not find my consistency with that. I did enough. Like I ended up doing like 900 reach outs before I was like, I'm never doing this again. And I'm good. And she's killing it. But so I just kind of was like, I need to stay active still somehow. And I got invited to a random Brokers Open, which, and if anybody doesn't know, a Brokers Open is essentially an open house for other real estate agents. And it was a client I hadn't worked with yet. So I was like, I'll just go provide value. I'll do a free like video walkthrough. It wasn't very good, but I did the video. I edited in my car afterwards and I sent it to her and she was blown away. I ended up meeting a couple people there. And it sprawled from there. Like there's the compounding of leads and how people know each other, who know each other and blah, blah, blah. I ended up meeting somebody there who was a title agent and she does Brokers Opens for her clients. She liked my work. So she invited me to another Brokers Open. And then that went into a whole other realm of events. And since then, she and a inspections person, like a guy who owns an inspections company, they started a monthly pitch group where real estate agents can go and pitch their listings. So I go to a month and I get to speak in front of 50 or 60 active agents who have listings and are pitching them to each other. And I get to talk about myself. I film and I take pictures of that. I do that free of charge because I'm a sponsor. So it's a trade. And yeah, like that specific event has been good for me. I've done a lot of Brokers Opens. And then just whatever, like I'm friends with a lot of title agents and other vendors, non-real estate agents and non-real estate photographers who are like,
are those just relationships you work to build or how does that happen?
Just kind of naturally. I go to Brokers Opens, I meet people, I'm nice to them. And then they're like, we exchange contacts and they're like, oh, hey, by the way, I have a Brokers Open if you're free. And when I wasn't busy, like when I wasn't as busy, I was like, I can stay active. I remember reading Grant Cardone's one of his books, and he said like white space on the calendar is the devil. And I just hated being home. I mean, I loved being home because I love chilling. I didn't like the feeling I had of being home and not being active. So I was like, even if I'm not making money from this, I'm going to go to this Brokers Open for 3 hours that day, and I'm just going to do something. So then I would bring my digital business card, and then I would just take some headshots for people, or I would take event photos. I would do a video. Like I said, I started with portrait photography, so I'm already good at that. So I would do pictures of people in the doorway or lifestyle photos or whatever. And that just compounds. Like I'm working on a brokerage deal right now because I went to a Brokers Open. I took pictures of an agent. She invited me to another Brokers Open. I met her broker, and now I'm in talks with her broker about doing a deal with her whole team. And it just like, it goes from there. And it feels much more bottom to top for me than trying to go straight after a broker. I don't want to talk about brokers.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense. And you said you have I think I know this about you, but you have a VA doing the Instagram method right now. Is
currently, that since January.
Okay, yeah. So that's kind of the thing where and I brought that up on purpose because one of the big things about owning a business is just knowing your strengths and weaknesses. You basically said it earlier, and to be fair, I don't think many people love the Instagram method. So it's something that a lot of people can relate with, but it's just boring, right? It's like, it's not scary, it's just boring. And so some people love that. But anyway, you can leverage other people to do it for you. So you can hire a VA to do it for you when it makes sense. And then what I love that you said is like, you wanted to just do something. You weren't just going to let the virtual assistant you hired do that. You needed to go do something. And I think that's a common theme among people that we have on here and we get to talk to that are successful, especially more than just a regular level of it, is like they have that desire to just like go make it happen. So speaking of going to make it happen, a lot of people are scared of, you said like, oh, I just got to talk in front of 50 or 60 people. And like the old Eli that's still like in there was like, geez, I don't want to do that. And I'm sure a lot of the audience can feel that way. Like, are you just fine with public speaking, or like, talk to me about that a little bit?
Yeah, no, that you get the nerves every time. Like I had nerves before I came on here, but part of this journey that I'm on is being uncomfortable and doing it anyway, doing it scared. And that's been a big rallying cry for myself, is to just like, I'm going to do it anyway. Like, I'm not giving myself the option. It's the same way that moving to Orlando and not getting a job and only starting my business and having to figure it out from there. Do it scared. I don't care. I'm going to figure it out.
That's a good phrase. I like that. Just do it scared.
I didn't come up with that.
Yeah, I like it either way.
It's kind of burned the ships a little bit, but it's like some of these events that I would go to, it kind of caught me off guard. The first one I went to was that one. It was actually an agent that I hadn't worked with yet messaged me a reel on Instagram. It was like an ad for a Brokers Open. And I was like, are you invited? Am I good to come to this? And she was like, yes, please do. And I was like, okay. And I didn't want to go. I did it anyway. And then I went there and I ended up meeting really cool people. One of the agents is actually now my mechanic. Like, you meet people and it's cool. And if you're a cool person, then you network, and it's not just like, you're not just shoving your business in their face. You're making connections and you're actually building community. And that was part of the fun for me too. I felt like I was out doing something, the same way that a lot of people, you have to like be in the business, or you have to be like working on the business, and like going to photo shoots seems you're like in the business, but it feels more tactical and it's more tactile. And for me, going to Brokers Opens, going to events and blah, 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 felt more.
Feels like you get that, like, I'm moving the business forward type thing.
And it felt more like a shotgun approach as well than the Instagram method, which is very like BBs.
Sniper. Yeah. BBs is a better word. So something you said earlier that I wanted to like bring up that I think is one of the things that makes this industry awesome is that you basically mentioned, I met this person, they met this person, they met this person, like, and they connect me to this person. Like the industry is amazing in that regard, because every real estate agent basically knows each other. So and title companies know the agents, and lenders and inspectors.
I know a lot of agents.
Yeah. It's like this huge net woven together. And so you just have to find like your entry point. And then you said it, if you're nice to people, you're friendly, right? You do a good job. And then it just spreads. It's not, it's part of the struggle for a lot of people owning. Let's talk about a portrait business, for example. Like, who's your customer? And you're like, I don't know, anybody. And sure, you can niche down and you could say, I do portraits, maternity portraits, or I do senior portraits. Like, there's ways you can niche it down, but like with real estate photography, you know who your clients are. But the best part is your clients are trying to market themselves, right? They're trying to be seen. They're like, I'm a real estate agent. Like almost too much. And so it's nice that once you they're like easy to find, and they all know each other. So I think that makes it really powerful. Rod, what questions do you have for Mr. Jeff? You have something in there. You were smiling earlier, which made me think someone did a joke in the chat, and I was trying to find it. But anyway.
Well, it's that too. But no, I'm just quite inspired, man. We spoke November, our first conversation when we originally spoke about coaching, and everything was, I have my notes. I have notes for every call I've had. I want to kind of run through some things we talked about. One, it was November 20th, 2023. But the cool thing in here was that you had a goal of hitting, we were talking about your goals, and you wanted to hit a goal of an $8,000 profit month. And it's just, you're there now, I would imagine, right? It's got to be at least, if you're hitting 12 or 13.
I mean, it's close. It's close.
Yeah. Oh, I just love to see that it's actually like things you told me you wanted to achieve. It's just my favorite thing is just seeing people like in that moment. And then you said your next goal, I was like, I remember in the call, I was like, once you do that, what's next? And you said 20 to 30 grand months. And that seems like the next goal. It seems like even higher.
Highlight that for a second and just say, it's taken way longer than I thought it would. Like, that's something that
that's the real answer.
Wish I would have known starting coaching, is like, it's going to take longer than it didn't have to.
Yeah.
Like, I see people in coaching and I see other business owners and blah, blah, they strike gold or whatever. And they put in the work a lot harder. It didn't happen that fast for me. Like, honestly, there was a long struggle, still is. Like, I'm still now learning other things, but like many breakdowns, many emotional moments where I was like, I'm not going to give up, but like, this is harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
So I think that's important to note, because like, it's very easy to say, 0 to 10K. And it's like,
easy. Yeah.
That's my favorite question is the struggles, like specific, like even like conversations we had before you jumped, right before you moved to Orlando, and just elaborate on that a little bit about as far as like pre-struggles before the jump into it. and just some of the initial struggles, as much as you want to share that you had while in it. Just, I think people like, we love to show the big results and like, people going fast. I personally love to show the ones that really worked for it and didn't turn away when it got tough and just earned the hell out of it like you've done. It's just quite inspiring. I mean, talk to me about like little pre-struggles and the struggles, around the time of jumping into coaching and it's starting to feel like, it's just not as fast as I thought. And you talk a little bit more about that, the specific feelings about that, or the specific cases.
The first thing, like disclaimer, I should say that I did not work as hard as I should have. And I think that's important to note because, like, I don't know, maybe I'm a little harder on myself, but looking back on it, there were so many times I could have been doing Instagram method more, doing cold calling, going to more events, or just doing more. And I was just kind of sitting around and like kind of waiting for it to happen. And it did eventually get to the point where it starts compounding. But there was a lot of time that I was just sitting around watching Instagram reels and like having conversations with my girlfriend. And she was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know, just kind of like waiting." And she's like, "That's not like, it's not all cherries and rainbows." Like for me, it's a different story than I think a lot of people have in coaching, where honestly, I think I've been building my work ethic throughout this business. Something about this business for me is that it's not just like, I'm not just after financial freedom. I'm like after self-actualization and like building myself. And I was working really menial jobs before and I could just skate by. And so now being my own boss, I like had to learn how to work hard. Like that's just kind of the nature. Like the struggle for me wasn't so much of like getting it off the ground. It was like waking up and getting after it, even if I didn't want to. And there are still days where I don't want to, and I don't. And like, I have to kind of handle that within myself, but having a calendar and being disciplined, it's still something I'm working on. And it's not like you get it figured out overnight. So that's been a big struggle. If there is one, like, I mean, I'm growing, like you go to the gym, you build muscles. It's just, I'm building my business muscle. And
that was a huge point right there. Like it's like when someone, and this might not be the exact case, but I think there are a lot of people that I've spoken to, like they're used to, a job and a boss creating that accountability of that. If you don't do this, you're gone. Then when you become the boss, it's like, that's not there. And you have to create the accountability and the attack. And it's like, it's a muscle learned, from just throwing in like you've done. And, yeah, that's a good point to make that sometimes I just forget to think about that. I'm glad you brought that up. Sorry to interrupt.
No, yeah. And it's like, it's a stair step that I've noticed too, is that it's not overnight. Again, it's not like you just suddenly learn it, but it's also not like a gradual incline. It seems to be like there are levels.
Yeah.
And you can, looking back on it, you can see like there was something that I overcame and here's something that I overcame. And there's little like benchmarks. But it's part of the fun. Like I noticed when I was in a group of other real estate photographer business owners, I was like, I noticed that a lot of us played video games when we were younger. And I think that there's something to that, of like the achievement of just grinding. And it's like, you want to level up, and that I wasn't getting that from a job. It just wasn't happening. I could get a promotion, but I was like, I'm going to be paid the same amount every 2 weeks, regardless of how hard I work. That's ridiculous. Now I'm like, I can, like Eli said, I can give myself a raise if I want to, call 20 more people, and I can feasibly double my, like, you know what I mean? It's up to me. That was a big appeal.
It's like it changes the permission from like they have to give you permission to you have to. Both are tough. You know what I mean? Like there's sometimes it's nice to not have to think about it. But I like the give yourself a raise thing, because then I feel stupid every day I don't work. I'm like, what am I doing, dude? Like I would be complaining about not getting a raise if I work for somebody, yet I'm just sitting here not getting myself a raise, So anyway.
It just didn't feel congruent with the way that I wanted to live my life, working a job. And I like, it's so easy for entrepreneurs to say that like, oh, don't have a job. You're working for peanuts or whatever. But there is power in that. There is a freedom of knowing that it's the same thing every time. And people love that. I personally, and a lot of entrepreneurs, that's the reason we start our own businesses, didn't. And no hate to those people, but like, that's just the way that I want to, like, I talk to.
They sleep okay every night, and entrepreneurs sleep great some nights and not at all other nights.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, no, that's definitely like, I won't say that I've had conversations where I wanted to quit, but I've definitely had conversations where it's like, I do think of the alternative.
Yeah.
And I always decide against it because I think it'd be a relief at first.
Yes. And then it would
And
be
then I
that
would
way.
just start something else.
I have to say, while you're on that topic, I think thinking about it is actually a thing that we as business owners do sometimes to give us a little bit of relief, right? It's like, oh man, like we joke, and Rod, you've definitely heard this one before, but like I joke with Aaron, Jared, and Kenny. I'm like, some days we're just like, man, it'd be so nice if the four of us just worked at a coffee shop today. Like, how easy would that be? Because it's always easy to look where you are and then see the greener grass, so to speak, and other things. But I think there's some value in that, of having those days where you're like, what am I, and you just you feel a little bad for yourself. You're kind of like, I could do that. Then you snap back into it and you're like, no, and you go back at it. So anyway, I think.
Well, there's the gratitude is important for that, because even on the suckiest day, like I wouldn't trade it. Like I heard Hormozy, I quote Hormozy all the time because I watch Alex Hormozy all the time, because I'm constantly trying to learn. And I think his business advice is really A1. But one of the things he talks about with gratitude is he's like systematized gratitude. And it's essentially, which of course he has, it's essentially just thinking about something that you have and just imagining that you don't have it anymore. And then missing and that yearning feeling. And then it's like remembering, oh, I actually do have it. And then feeling grateful. And you can do that with anything. Like I was looking at my camera today and I was like, dude, I'm really grateful I have this camera. Like I've had it for a while and I wouldn't have a business if I didn't have this camera. And the same thing, even on the suckiest day, it's like, I can think about what it's like to work at a job. And I remember sitting at that desk feeling like, this sucks. I want to leave at 5 and I want to go home and do nothing. And it's like, there was no joy in that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think one of the things I like, and the audience here, and speak up, if it's meaning something to you, but a lot of the questions you ask and the things you say are like things people feel but don't know how to articulate. And so that's one of the things I appreciate about you. It's just fun to talk through some of that stuff. So I think like, everybody's different. They have different motivations and stuff, but a lot of the people trying to do this, we're a lot more similar than we are different, right? So there's those core things that we all feel. And I think you've spoken to those really well. Between 5 and 10K a month. So you're trying to get some success, you're getting some clients. What challenges are you finding, or have you found, because you're past that now, which is fun to say, but like, what did you find between the 5 and 10 that was challenging for you?
I think comparison is one of them. Okay. Distraction is another. And lack of consistency can be one. Not like I said this in my vision talk, but like having read I read like 30-ish books last year. Most of them are business books, 30 or 40. And like I could probably boil all of them down to the 2 words, consistency and persistence. And like those 2 words I would say are like always in the forefront of the mind because they're hard to do. Persistent is just keep doing the same thing, but consistency is doing it on the schedule. And like that has been a challenge of that 5 to 10K, because it's like, I want to get better and get more revenue, but that comes from doing the same thing over and over again. And that boredom. And like, I remember having conversations with my coach, Ariana, which if I have time, I would love to go on a rant about how amazing she is. But that 5 to 10K, it's like, you have to be a little bored. I was like, I'm just going to grind this out until I do it. And it just keep hammering is like the best way I can think about it. And it's a little tough and it's a little bit draining to say like, I'm going to another shoot tomorrow. And it's like, you get to that point where you're just doing it on autopilot. Like I was literally texting my girlfriend today while at a shoot because I was just so like
you don't have to
in
think
the
about
zone. I don't have to think about it, but it also can be like menial feeling in some ways too. So getting over that hump of like boredom, and again, trying to think about it from gratitude.
Maybe I'm thinking about this wrong, but like, I think the feeling that I had is like, you have these goals and you want to move towards that, but you're like, oh, I'm stuck at the shoot. But it's like the shoot is what gets you there long term. Is that kind of okay? Go for it.
No, yeah, I was just agreeing.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, you mentioned 2 other things before that too that I thought were great. Comparison. What do you mean by that? Like just seeing other people grow more quickly, or what does that look like?
Yeah, no, I wanted to address Dave's comment because he said like, I just like, how do you
I saw that
handle
one
when people say, I don't feel like I'm going as fast as other people. Should I give up? Because like coaching is really prolific and it's really strong. A lot of people are joining. New people join in my market all the time. I was one of those new people at some point. There's other photographers in the area, and that comparison, plus you're seeing videos on Instagram constantly of these world-class houses, and these people are doing $9,000 videos, all day shoots, and you're looking at that and you're like, which is ties into somebody else was like, what's the hardest part about switching from that portrait photography to this? It's like the artistry. So comparing it to that and comparing yourself to other photographers and the competition, I try not to, because I heard a quote that was like smart people think about their own business and dumb people think about their competition, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm butchering that quote, and so every time I'm thinking about my competition, I'm like, that's not a very smart thing to do. I should be focusing on myself, because we're both growing. But I look at some people like in coaching, even if they're in a different market, and you start to feel a little bit like, not resentful, but you can feel a little bit of some jealousy if you allow it. And I just remember talking to my coach one time, Ariana, and I was having that feeling. I was expressing it, and I brought up somebody in coaching, someone's name specifically, and she was like, "Oh, that guy, like, he's doing amazing. His mom drives him to his shoots. Like, he's able to do Instagram method during that time. Like, he's doing outreach while so like all the time that I'm driving, the 2-3 hours a day, he's capitalizing on that, and I'm not able to." So I can't compare myself. Nobody's story is the same. I look at somebody else who hit 10K in 3 months. They had a wedding photography business before this. They already know the business side of it. So I'm learning things as I go, and my own journey is my own journey. So you actually can't compare yourself to anybody else. Like, it's feasibly, it's not like, it's not possible.
It's different. Yeah. It's not apples to apples. Yeah. It just sometimes seems like it on the surface. Yeah.
It's very easy to just throw a pity party.
Yeah, it is. No, it's interesting too, because it's like anytime you're thinking about that, you said it earlier, but anytime you're thinking about somebody else, you're not thinking about your own business or doing stuff on your own business. And I would say, like, most of that is wasted, right? There's always like a little bit, you want to know what your competition is slightly doing, but you don't want to look. Jared says, look at them, don't stare at them. I like that. And then the other thing too is like, so you want to have a little bit of that. You don't want to know, if you don't think anybody's successful because you don't compare at all, then you don't have any, like, you just think you're doing great when you're doing 3K a month, but you don't want to look too much. You know what I mean? Like, I have a buddy of mine who, like 3 years ago, he texted me how much revenue they were doing, and I was like pissed off for the afternoon. And it was the most productive pissed off I've ever been in my life. I went on my scooter and I was like, I'm about to figure this out, and I figured it out, right? And I beat him. So take that, but that's a different story. But it's like, that's helpful too. It's like a friendly, like, I'm going to beat you, win kind of thing. And so you want it in small doses, and that's basically what you were saying, right? It's like, you don't want to spend your entire focus on it, but but you have a little bit of it, it's okay. So
and one like small piece of advice to go with that for anybody that's interested. I am in a group chat with other Florida-based photographers. Like, it's a very smaller group chat, but some of them are in my market or directly like close to my market. And we sometimes will send each other shoots, or we will like talk about our revenue numbers, and like we'll encourage each other. Jared, one time, he was like, don't be friends with them, but be friendly, like, with your competition, because I'm working like on broker deals right now and blah, blah, blah. I'm solo right now. Like, I can't handle all 16,000 agents in my market anyway, currently. Like, that's not, I don't even know if I want to do that business, because even when you get to that point where you're that big, there's going to be an agent who's like, no, but I really want to work with a solo photographer.
Yeah.
So you're never going to have everybody anyway. So it's just like, there's no reason to alienate the only other potential peers you have, because no one's going to relate to you as best as somebody who also owns a real estate media business in your market. Like, it's really fun to talk to people and just complain if you want to with other people.
It's like the pressure release valve that we
you can't put that on your significant other or your friends who don't own businesses. They're working a job. Like, you can't put that on them, and it's nice to keep that in a peer group. That's been really beneficial for me personally.
Cool. I'm glad you said that too. And yeah, someone asked a question like as a joke, how do I get in that group chat? But I wanted to say something seriously on that note. Like, you create it. You go find the people that are in the market or near, and you ask them, and that is so valuable. I agree with what you said 100% on that, Jeff. Another word you said, go for it.
That's from, I don't remember the book. It's like one of the all-time books, but it talks about a mastermind group. And it's, the group chat is similar, but it's, the general concept is like have a group of like-minded people, like Carnegie and all those guys did it. And then you have like meetings and you build each other up, like rising tides raise all shit. Like you do that. And it's like, there's a collective consciousness that happens and you don't want to let them down. Like if you are suddenly not there for 3 weeks, they're going to be like, yo, where are you at? Like, what's going on? Are you good? Like, it's just nice to have accountability, which is what coaching is in the beginning, specifically. Like, not to sit here and do a pitch for coaching, but the community.
I was like, is this going where I think it's going? Because I'll put up a link right now.
Dude,
link to talk about coaching.
Hire me as a salesman. I'll do it.
Come on, get in.
Nothing has been more worth it than coaching, but we can talk about that if you want to, but anyway.
Well, one question I have for you, as much as I want you to talk about coaching right now, I want to ask
you to shout out Ariana because she is incredible.
And Ariana, we'll give you a chance for that.
Like if you do want to give her,
I absolutely do.
I will set you up for that because I'd love
definitely.
Okay, so the last question before that I have is basically you mentioned a couple words. One of them we just talked about. The other one was in terms of struggles. So comparison. The next one was distraction. Yeah. You, I think, are very in. The questions you come ask on my group calls and you ask to me when we've talked in person, like all the stuff, it's very oriented around that. And I think that's going to, like, if you stay doing that, it's going to serve you very well because distraction is one of the most costly things for business owners. And just for everybody listening, like it comes at every stage, right? And it just gets worse. So like when you're doing 10K a month, the distractions become more attractive. You can make another 5K doing this, but it's like, it always is if you stay on the core thing. So what does distraction mean to you? Like, and what are some of those things that you could have been distracted by?
So the only notes that I have for this call, I actually saw a reel by Hormozy right before this call, and I was like, that's good. And he talks about the 6 stages of entrepreneurship, which if you've heard of them, then they are. So they start with uninformed optimism, and that is like you watch a reel from Eli, and you're like, this looks awesome. It looks easy. You have no idea what it entails. So you're like, let's just go into it. Then you have informed pessimism. You realize how much it sucks, like how much more hard it is. And then you have the crisis of meaning or the valley of despair, which is where you're like, okay, this is really way harder than I thought. And I thought it was going to be easier. This is where I was at last year for like the first 6 months of last year. Going through coaching, I was like, dude, this is not what I thought. I thought I'd be at 10K way faster. And at that point, that's the inflection point where you can either hop back to informed optimism, which is the distraction, or you can keep going and you can become an informed optimist. So I say that to say that the distractions come in because it's so much easier to do something new, which is why you're an entrepreneur in the first place, because you like the new. But what I've found is that there's so much new within the business itself already that, like, I learned how to hire a VA. I'm going to onboard a photographer soon. Like, that's new. But it's very easy, especially if you're very new to entrepreneurship, to just say, like, I'm just going to start something new. I'm going to do branding. That's a distraction that is very easy to fall into the trap of, because a lot of agents see you with a camera and they say, oh, well then, hey, let's do 20 reels. Let's get a retainer deal going. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I don't necessarily know how to, like, that wasn't in my coaching, but I can probably figure it out. And then you go down that rabbit hole and you follow that lady in the red dress. And then somebody else is like, oh, well, can you do headshots? And you're like, yeah, I guess I could do that too. And then you try and figure that out. You build packages around that. And then during that time, you felt very busy and you felt like you were doing something and you were earning some money, but you were neglecting your core business. And I speak from experience because I'm hyper vigilant about distractions now. But I haven't always been. And like, even during that time of doing headshots and doing branding and blah, 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 like I was aware of it, but I was just like, I need money. Like I need to figure this out. So there's definitely a balance, but it's so easy to just give up and try something new. And then you get to that point again. So it's like,
yeah, I don't know if you can see it on your end. I think, Rod, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny the way, I love how you described it. It's basically, so like you see a lot of people that have been in 4 different businesses, 6 different businesses, and they never seem to like make one work. And this is why, right? You get that uninformed optimism, you get really excited, then you start to learn more and you get a little bit more pessimistic, and then you realize it's freaking hard. But then here's the split where it happens, right? Crash and burn is just, it should really just be quit. You just quit, right?
Or something new.
You don't, yeah, you start something. Well, that's what I'm saying. You quit the thing that you should have. Yeah. So it's like you're here. Well, the problem is when you're here, everything else looks better. Everything looks better. And so it's like the hardest point where you're like, so you just quit. So then boom, you go on this cycle again and you do like, I think one of the things the ways he explains, there's like this wheel here. They just keep repeating, but it's like, you just push. And really there should be like this is kind of like a Dunning-Kruger chart, but there should be like an x-axis that shows a competence. So the more you push through, you start to go up. You get informed optimism. You're like, I know what I'm talking about. And I know it's going to work. And then you get achievement. And this is where everybody's trying to get, but they keep splitting off here. So I love that you brought that up. It's such I love that chart.
The thing about that I've realized in myself is like, it will happen. If you're in coaching or if you're in the course, or even if you're figuring it out on your own, enough people have done it. The path has been tread enough that there's no reason you can't figure it out. So you can give up if you want. Like I had conversations with Ariana about working at the Vans store, like the shoe store, because I was like, I need to make rent and I live close to a mall. I could walk there. I don't even have to drive my car. Like I can work at the store. Like that was my crisis. My valley of despair. I was like, it wasn't that I was going to give up. It was that I was going to work the job and do my business. But it was just, it was never in my mind that I couldn't do it. So I've done it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you just knew the path was there. So if you just followed it and persisted, you get there basically.
Yeah.
You, not to just tee you up too nicely, but like you mentioned Ariana a lot. What about what Ariana did was like very helpful to you?
No, please do tee me up, dude. She's such an important person in my life. Like I could get emotional about her because I started coaching and Kenny, who's, if anybody doesn't know, he's on Eli's team. He was my coach. And I had seen him on these lives before and I was like, yes, dude, awesome. And then about like a month into coaching, she was like, oh, hey, Ariana's here as well. And like, I could tell they were switching me out. And I was like,
you texted me. I don't know if you
texted Rod and I was
texting me like, what's going on? I'm like, trust it.
I talked to my girlfriend and she was like, that's messed up. And I was like, it is messed up. I wanted to work with Kenny, but trusting the process, Ariana was who I needed to work with at that time. And still, she's just incredible. She is so much more of a mindset person. Like she's a lot of things, but she really helped me to hone my mindset around the business. And Kenny is amazing. I actually haven't worked with them all that much since then because like I've been working with Ariana, but I think Ariana was the person I needed because I had to build this muscle of entrepreneurship. And she's been an entrepreneur for so long that she knew where I was coming from. And she could help me through these mental struggles and this mindset stuff of, again, not wanting to give up, but just the perseverance aspect of it. And she's just incredibly encouraging. And there's a lot, like, it gets a little mystical, like manifestation type of stuff, which some people think is a little bit frou-frou or whatever, but like, it's all about focus, I think is the biggest thing to say about it. And where your attention goes, your energy flows. And I think that Ariana was very instrumental in helping me stay focused, stay on the ball, and believing in myself and like having that confidence to keep going. And
that's what it is. Like when you have that, so like the, you know, from a coaching perspective, right? It's like the tactics are there. There's video, there's a check, like it's there. The problem is that, I mean, you have to know that stuff, but once you know it, you have to use it. And that's where the mindset comes from, is the mindset, it determines what skill set you get and how you use those tools that you've learned, you know? And
I like how you said, like, it can feel fluffy to sometimes people or a certain way about manifestation and however they word it. It's real. Like I have conversations with you. I have conversations with others that tell me what they want to achieve and the numbers they want to hit and the life they want to live on that first call. And I'm looking at these notes and these interviews and seeing that you're living, you know, in those moments that you told me. And whether people like to believe it or not, it happens, whether you use it or ignore it. It's happening mathematically. I have data at this point where I just cannot not believe it. It's like, it's weird to not believe it.
Well,
so
I think you
just,
can demystify
I love
it
that
a
you
little
like
bit.
genuinely lived it, Jeff. I don't know. It's incredible, man. I can't.
I mean, Jeff said it, but it's like you demystify it by just calling it a freaking well thought out and followed plan. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you think about what you want to do. So therefore you're actually creating a plan in your head about what you're going to do, right? It's like, where do you want to go? I don't know. Well, then how are you going to get there? And so it starts with like, whatever you call it, it starts with being like, here's what I want to do. Like you said it, I want to do this. And then maybe it took longer. It always takes longer than you thought. But I mean, still in the scheme of things, it's short, right? It's like a year.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. You know, most people work their whole career to try to make a 6-figure income. And a year later, here you are. But it's not just a 6-figure income. It's a 6-figure income with an asset that you own that's going to continue to grow. And that's amazing. Like that's, you know, why I love what I get to do, right? Because that's so important. Like, if you have that, it just makes it doesn't solve everything, but it solves a lot of problems. Anyway, this is a funny quote. I like this attitude.
By the way, that guy that said that, that's Connor. He's one of the guys in my group chat that he has been massively helpful for me as well. And that's part, like, he's over here rhyming. One of the rhymes I like is that your vibe attracts your tribe. And then your net worth is your network. That was my cousin is an entrepreneur, and I asked him something one time about that. I was like starting my business, and I was like, what's one piece of advice? And he was like, your net worth is your network. And I was like, that's very cliche, but like having built a community of people, and like Connor has been instrumental in that. It's like having a peer who's doing it, and he's like a little ahead of me. He's got a photographer and blah, blah, blah. Like having those people in your life they're going to raise you up. And they help your mindset too. Like it's really easy to get discouraged, but when you have somebody you can complain to, then it's a little easier to kind of misery loves company about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important. Like I look back at my first 5 years and they were just so slow because I posted on my story earlier and I meant it. Like I was just such an idiot. I didn't get around other people. I didn't learn from others. I thought photo business was different than any other business. So like I didn't read the classic business book. And it's so funny because like there was a very, specific time where a lot of that shifted, my mindset shifted on it, right? And so then I started being open to it. It's like, if you look at my business, it was like, and then I started doing that up, and it was, what was it, right? It was getting around other people who are doing stuff that I wanted to be doing, learning from people who had done it, right? And just those things, like they're simple, but it works. You start, learning at such a higher rate than you can. So it's really important. Well,
kick me out if you need to.
No, that's Rod. Yeah, that was great.
I hope I was transparent. That's one thing that like, if I can say one last thing, it's just that like when I watch business content or like especially coaching stuff, it's like it's easy to celebrate the big numbers, but the biggest thing that I've found is like the transparency is so huge, especially to people starting their businesses.
Yeah,
is that everybody struggles, everybody goes through it. This is what you're signing up for.
Yep.
So it's like if you go to the gym to lift weights, it's gonna be heavy. You're going to be sore, but it's going to be worth it. And it's like the transparency of like, I have financial problems. I have this like relationship problems from working too much. Like there are things that happen. It's not all rainbows and butterflies. And that's like the biggest lesson that I wish I could impart to people.
Yeah. Well, you just did. Yeah. Those are some of our favorite questions too. Cause I think it's like, it doesn't serve somebody if they're like, yeah, I'm going to do it and it's going to be easy. What happens then? Like we wouldn't be doing coaching if it was easy, right? Because everybody would figure it out on their own and it would be easy. And so it's like, what do you need? You need someone to accurately understand the challenge. And accurately means you don't think it's going to be impossible because there's a whole group of people that'll never try and think it's impossible. And that sucks. And there's a whole group of people that just get smacked in the face once because they thought it was going to be easy and then they quit. And so it's like, I love that accurate, like, and I always try to ask questions around challenges because if you know what the challenges are going to be, when the challenge comes, you're like, I saw you coming.
You feel like you're weird. It's like, this is normal. All right.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to be accurate about it because another Hormozy thing, he's like, the thing about entrepreneurship is that it sucks. And it sucks more than you thought it was going to suck. And that's the biggest slap in the face for me is I was like, I knew it was going to be hard, but like, why am I crying on the ground right now? This is really tough. I'm like,
it activates a lot more fear than I think we think sometimes. It's like I remember one time I was getting over the 10 years of providing business coaching, you just got to ask people, what are the different fears of which someone will trigger when someone's making a decision, not just about coaching, but just jumping into a business in general and running a business. It's a lot. I mean, it was 30 plus big fears all activating at once. Sometimes even for a lot of people all at once, or a combination of a good handful of them. So it's
well, that's why so many people don't do anything. Yeah, I mean, that's why so many people do the normal thing and they just stay in their job, right? Because it's like, but I would say, like, talking on the upside of it, it's like this weird thing you don't know until you're in it. It's like it sucked, but it was worth it.
It's
And
so
that's
lame to allow your fear to like dictate it though. It's so lame because then you're just like, what was I doing? Because then after, like, I have a very specific example of when I was playing Pop Warner football and I was the center and I was like 14 and the other team had this giant, like 400-pound defensive lineman and I would not go in the game. I was like, I'm not playing. I'm not doing it. And I regret it to this day. I allowed my like fear to overcome me and it's like stuck with me for as long as I've lived since then because I think about how much better I would have felt if I had overcome it. But instead now I just have this, it's not a regret. I don't have regrets. You can't change things in the past, whatever, but like it's there. And imagine if you were 90 on your deathbed, like, oh, I wish I would have done that business.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I think I call it fear shifting. You could almost like see the light bulb go off in someone's head when it happens. But once the fear of not doing something overpowers the fear to do something, that's when we usually do that. Once the fear of like you said, my biggest fear in life is that looking back and being like, damn, I wish I did that. Because I have conversations with people in their 70s and 80s that are telling me that's what they want. I'm like, well, time is now, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
So it's that fear. It's either we make decisions based on a fear. You either make decisions on two ways. Either it's fear or opportunity. So always ask yourself in every situation, is this a decision based on opportunity or fear? Most of the time it's fear, and it'll get you. Brains are tricky. So
well, there's also,
I love that you brought that up. Man, that's a huge point.
And cut me off whenever. I just always
no, you're good. This is great.
Like the confidence comes from overcoming obstacles. And throughout this business, it's just, like I said, benchmarks. It's like thing after thing after thing. I did not know how to do agent on camera. I didn't know how to film with agents. And now I'm knocking it out. And they're like, oh, you're really good at directing. Like you're very confident at that. And I'm like, thank you. Now, yeah, like it's a little scary at first, but that satisfaction of overcoming that is just massive. And it's really worth it. It's like kind of a dopamine hit to overcome an obstacle. Like I was scared of hiring a VA and it's almost paralyzing as well there's a fight, flight, or freeze. And I think mine's probably freeze, where it's like, it's so scary. There's so many unknowns. I'm just going to not do it. And maybe I'll do it later, but that's just pushing it off. And once you finally, like you do the interviews, you put the thing out there, you hire a VA. My VA is like one of the best things that happened in my business. Her name's Claire. She's amazing. And like, I'm going to be bumping up her hours. I'm doing so much more because like she's provided me so much value that like it's been worth. And like I just think about where I'd be, and I also thought about how much better I would have been off sooner if I would have gotten over that fear hump sooner. Like imagine if I had started my business when I was 21 instead of waiting around until I was 27 or whatever. Like I don't know, man. Life is so short and there's no reason to not live it how you want to, and allowing fear to get in the way is just so lame.
Well, you know what's interesting too is like, I mean, at least for me, right? The things that I'm scared of, they're usually the new things, which is fair because you've not done them. So that's why your body's like, yo, watch out, But if you use fear as radar of what you should be doing, it's a really good pathway indicator, right? Like generally the thing you're scared of is the thing you need to do. And we talk on that concept a lot because it just plays out so much. It's like, when you're, for people sitting here listening, right? There's someone who's just wanted to send their first Instagram DM for a while. Right. And they're so scared. And it's like, what is the best thing that person could do for their business right now is send that DM. And so it's almost interesting that you have to kind of go like, what am I most scared of doing right now? That's what I need to do. And it actually takes the guesswork out of it. It's like, you're coming up on a stage. I don't know if you're scared of hiring your first photographer, you're about there, but it's like, that's the thing, And then it's even funnier because once you start getting even closer, the fear gets more intense. It's like this peak, right? Here's the moment. It's like the fear creeps up and then you do it, the fear drops off. And so it's like, I can't, I had the fear of hiring photographers. I'm so scared of not having a team at Norman & Young now. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Like there's, you know what I mean? And so,
well, I'm kind of getting to that point myself where I'm like, I'm getting so busy and I'm like, I need to bump up my VA's hours. I need to hire a photographer. Like I'm kind of scared of what's going to happen if I don't. So, I mean, there is that too, but there's so many unknowns, and like coaching can help to an extent, and having other people's wisdom to lean on can help to an extent, but there's so much experience that you have to get yourself. At least for me, I'm somebody that I need that hands-on experience. I can listen to advice. I don't have to put my hand on the stove to know it's hot. But at the same time, I need someone to tell me it's like, okay, I touched that stove already. It's really hot. Don't do that. And it's like, okay, cool. Now I know. But like, there's that aspect of it where there's so many little unknowns that are very scary. Yeah. But you learn them as you go. And then like, if you get to the point where you send a DM casually, like you film a video in your car, casually send it to somebody, and like, it doesn't even, like, I used to be really nervous about my first 9 posts on Instagram. Yeah. I have probably 120 videos of the first time I was trying to record a video, because I was like messing up so often. And I remember my first 9 posts, for like 2 weeks, I was like procrastinating. Kenny was like, "Are you going to post those?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, I don't want to post them all on the same day." And he was like, "Well, you got to post them eventually." I was like, "Yeah, I know, I will, but like, just give me a second." And it just was I was so procrastinatory about it. And it was just because I was afraid. Procrastinatory. I don't think it's a real word. It's really easy to let your fear paralyze you, though, if you allow it. But
that's the default setting. It just will, unless you force it not to. Rod, what were you
saying? Studying. It was an event I had to talk about fear, so I studied it for a long. I'm not like a psychologist, so someone in here will know more. But it was quite amazing. Like, the same process that happens in the brain when we're about to get eaten by a lion that just appeared in our home is the same as if we're about to go on stage and talk to a room full of 1,000 people. Like, it cuts off a part of our brain that's logic scientifically, because if you're about to get hit by a bus, you don't want to think, well, hold on, if I step 3 feet to the right, I could actually probably get out. No, you're dead. So it cuts off a part of our brain. I forgot what it's the amygdala takes over, and it cuts off our frontal lobe, I believe, which is responsible for logic. And it's that's why when we get afraid, things sometimes don't make sense. And the only way to get out of it is to question it. Like, if I go on stage, am I going to die? If I stutter, am I going to die? No, it's fine. It gets our brain out of it. It's that fight or flight, like you were saying. It's like if something's tapping on the window at night, we get a little afraid, like someone's tapping on the window. And then we remember, wait a minute, it's storming right now. And it's that branch that grew down a little bit, and it's actually hitting my window. And that immediate feeling we get when we realize it's not someone tapping on the window, I feel really great. That's fight or flight leaving. It's the amygdala going, oh, wait, no, we're good. So if you can just figure out how to turn off that thing, you'll be like those people that you see on Instagram that hang from skyscrapers, and jump from skyscraper to skyscraper. Like, how do you have no fear? It just got out of hand. So maybe don't do that. Maybe don't do that. But that's where you scientifically know how fear works. You can use it to propel you versus prevent you, like most people. Same when someone's like afraid of flying in an airplane. You learn how the airplane works, and you learn every bit about an airplane and what it's like in the air, and then you actually dissipate that fear a bit by the knowledge. So it comes back down to that astronaut saying, the more you learn, the less you fear. So learn, the fear starts to dissipate. I don't know why I went on a fear rant, but you inspired me, Jeff. Come on, man. Let's go for 2 hours on this. Let's go.
No, but it's real, because from experience of like speaking in front of people, you do get that little tingle in your stomach every time, that feeling that you have to pee a little bit, like you're so nervous. And then you go up there and you start talking. It goes away in the first 2 minutes if you talk longer than that. And then afterwards you watch it and you're like, oh, it's not that bad. And you talk to people and they're like, you sounded confident. Like, and you like, sometimes I'll mess up. Like, I don't know, but you just do it anyway. It's just like the best advice I can have is just do it anyway. Do it scared, like whatever.
Do it scared. I like that. That's my takeaway from this one. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Jeff. That was worth every minute of overtime. So I appreciate you being on.
Thanks for letting me go over. I love you.
No, of course. Thank you. That was awesome. Well, have a great rest of your day, and we're gonna do a little Q&A, some recap, and cool, I appreciate it. Go get those broker deals.
Thank you, man.
See you later, Jeff. That was awesome. That was a good one. I don't even know what to say after that one. I like, I want to go 5 minutes. Yeah, I want to say something about Jeff specifically that I like, and why I was like really excited to have him on the Q&A. So there's people that like get in this business, they crush it really fast, right? And that's great. But there's people who do a really good job building a foundation that's going to make them a really good operator now in the future. The game with business is not to build the fastest business and then it goes away. Not that it's going to go away, right? But it's like the goal is not build the best business in 2 years. That's not the goal for people. I would imagine anybody starting this, people that invest in coaching, that they're like, you're not doing this for a year. You're doing this because you're going to build a business that lasts a while, right? And so if you think about, hey, I'm going to have this business for 10 years or longer, you start going, what do I need to learn now that's going to make that process better? And so like, the way I see Jeff is he's just consistently going up. Some people go up and then they hit a wall and they go down, they go up. Like Jeff is just really consistent. I think it's because he takes the time to build that mental framework that I think is really cool. So yeah, we have our group coaching calls in coaching, and the second I see Jeff's name in there and his hand go up, I'm like, we're gonna have some good questions today. So yeah, all that to say, that was fun. Yeah, back to the regular programming. Well, what questions does everybody have? Jump in there. I think
we could address. Just I think they're good questions, good thoughts. Being in Florida has a lot to do with it. We see people crush it all over, to be fair, too. Yeah. I think
Florida's just big, right? So there's just a lot of people are in Florida, so a lot of coaching people are in Florida. But like, I would say there's actually much better markets than Florida.
From what we've seen, yeah.
Yeah, like Pacific North. If you want to like use the like, hey, this market is the best, like Seattle. Pacific Northwest, you have like $1,000 average order values. The highest we've ever seen from a solo operator was there. Was actually a guy and his wife, but they did like well over 50K in a month. It's insanity, just those two. And so, yeah, I mean, Florida's good, but like, I don't even know if it ranks at the top. It's just bigger. So you see a lot of people there. Let's see. Interesting to see how close everyone is with their coach. Yeah, I mean, people, use our program differently, right? So you have like a one-on-one coach, there's group calls, there's curriculum and a checklist. Like, depending on your personality type, some people are very coach heavy, some love group calls, so everybody has their own thing. But Jeff, I think really connected well with Ariana, and yeah, built a great business.
Here's a genuine, and it's a genuine question. They're not hating or anything. And I think it's a genuine question too, to be fair.
Yeah, so, Eli, if you make so much money.
I have my thoughts, but I want to hear yours. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to it, right? Like, I mean, the selfish answer is there's more money, right? There's not like, how much do you? Well, more. I'm trying to build a business, right? But the bigger answer, I think, for me is one of the things that I would have been really benefited if I had something like we built when I was starting my business. And I don't just mean in real estate media. I think there's a lot of people out there who would love a practical way to learn a skill. And so I think big picture, the way education is done doesn't really work very well in a lot of cases or for a lot of people. So like part of what I want to do with my career is just do education a little bit differently. And so like, what is the skill that I'm teaching now? Well, it's the skill that I learned, real estate media. And I love teaching people, I love building it, but it's kind of like, step one for me. So yeah, I appreciate the question. I do think like there are a lot of people who sell a course and do stuff that are scammy, right? And so like, that's where the question comes from. But yeah, I hope that answers. If you ever have any like other ones, feel free to drop them in there.
Well, I mean, I think it happens naturally over time from my experience seeing, like people eventually ask and say, hey, you should have a course. You should do this. You should do that. And like, oh, maybe I should. And then the supply starts to happen. It goes this and it evolves. And then as demand goes up, price goes up. It just is kind of how it works. And also we get to do it. The reason we love to do it, you can make money in a lot of ways, but we get to get people like Jeff that just came on. That's someone that tells me they want to change their life, and then now they are, and able to inspire others to change their lives. At the end of the day, it does feel nice to help lead people to things that help them. We do like money, but we do like to genuinely help people and see how they can grow. So I mean, it kind of happened over the 5 years you've been training people. We're at.
I like this comment. I was going to warn you'll be banned. Yeah. The only time you get banned is if you spam nonsense. If you ask a good, tough question,
I don't think we ever ban anyway. If someone bans like, yeah.
No, I banned somebody one time who wouldn't just stop, dude. They kept going on about all this stuff, and I was like, you got to go out of here.
I like them though. I like that energy. But all right, we'll get into real estate media questions now. We love coaching, but we want to help you all with your business too. But I do love coaching. I mean, come on. Any excuse to talk about coaching. Let's go.
Let's see. Jeff, thank you. I appreciate that. I do like teaching. I would have never thought that about myself too, but I do like, you know what it is? It's like the ultimate challenge. It's like the first challenge is figuring out how to do something yourself, but then real skill is like when you can teach somebody else. And it's kind of what you do when you scale your business, right? Like you just teach your photographers. So it's teaching. Leading is always the skill, I think, that grows a business. Let's see.
Okay, let me start picking some business.
Get your questions in there, guys. Ask us some good tactical stuff.
We'll start rapid firing some questions here.
Marvin said, who do you guys use for editing photos? Marvin, there's two ways right now. So there's Pixelmob, which is what all of us have used in the past. And Pixelmob is a site where you can go find, it's like a marketplace of editors. So you can see them by ratings and try them in there. Ultimately, with an editor, you kind of always are moving around. At least most people are. So like you'll start with one editor, they get too busy and then service drops, you switch to somebody else. But there's a new thing you can try that I think it's really where the industry is going, called the company's called Auto HDR. It's AI photo editing. Here I'm pinning. Oh, you're already doing it. Rod's on the ball.
Yeah.
Those are two options for you to find editors.
I'll comment that too. I'll get it.
Yes, Legion Martin, you can absolutely tie in Spiro if you have an existing website. I can actually show you. It's pretty cool. Here, hold on. Norman, and you don't, and if you're just starting, like, don't build a website is my advice. But if you already have one, yes. So let me look at that. Add to stage. Here we are. Why is it not? Oh, it's weird. It doesn't show our, like, can you see our video behind there, Rod?
I see listing media for agents in DFW that's not moving.
Oh, weird. On my screen, it's moving, but it's not on there. But anyway, if you go up here to where it says,
you talking at a desk, nice looking mahogany desk.
Yeah. So see, it says book now up here. So this is our regular website. And then when you click book now, see it redirected to book.normandyyoung.com. That's where it went over to Spiro. So that's how it interacts with our thing. So yes, you absolutely can. Yeah, there's a demo for Spiro. I actually made it. So if you sign up for Spiro, it will shoot you a course automatically.
Your damn face is everywhere, man. Come on.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. I'm just kidding, in a good way. Well, I hear your voice while I sleep, though. That's the problem.
Yeah,
that's a good question. I get this question a lot on the calls I'm on too.
I'm excited, but I'm a little scared at the same time. Someone really applies themselves in a good market. Can they get 5 to 8K quickly? Yeah, Violet, I mean, applies themselves, like it depends on the person. We've seen people hit 10K in their first month. Don't expect that. You have to like send it to get that. But it's possible, right? So, 5 to 8K, I don't want to say like, oh, you could do it in 2 months, because it's so timeline dependent. You could do it in the first month and you could never do it. But if you're willing to put in the work, yes, absolutely. It's doable. Let's see. Cameron, come to one of the group calls. I don't think I've seen you on any of my group calls.
Is that Cameron Doran?
Is it?
Wait, which Cameron? What's your last name? Is that Doran?
Either way, Cameron, come to my group call and let's get it hammered out. Go to anybody's group call and get it hammered out, dude. Okay, let's see. Or book a one-on-one with your coach. Either way.
I think this is actually a good thing to bring up. I think a lot of people do actually. I think it's because the area, right? That Cameron's saying that it's in a cheap area, and that's why it could be tough.
That's okay. I mean, that's kind of why I wanted them to talk it out specifically with their coach. But what's up? It is Cameron Doran. Cool. Yeah, like are you struggling because you're afraid you're too expensive, Cameron, or where's the struggle coming from? Let me know, and then I just don't want to answer something for you that's like, great, that didn't help. So let me know where you think. Are you saying agents think you're too expensive, or you worry you're too expensive, or because everybody else is cheap, you feel like you need to go cheap, but you don't want to? Like, where's it coming from? Let's see.
I went trigger happy. You pick.
Now I'm trying to find some.
I'll redo if we missed your question, you can pop it back up there just in case.
Yeah, please. Think about dropping off gift. Oh, what's up, Jerry? Speaking of someone crushing it, yeah. I've been thinking about dropping off gift baskets, small brokerage in my area, and having free shoot cards. Is that effective? I'd love for it to be my entry point for brokerage presentations. Yeah, I mean, it's effective, Jerry. It's just how effective is the question. Especially if it's something, I mean, you're out shooting a lot. If you just put some in the back of your car, and next time you drive by the brokerage, it's 5 minutes out of the way. I think that's probably the height of making it efficient and effective. But yeah, I mean, it definitely can work. It's usually better to get an intro from an agent that's already in that brokerage and just ask them how you can get in contact with the broker. Andy
Andrew
said,
in Australia, by the way. Shout out, Andy.
yes, sir. How do you deal with agents requesting too many? How many edits are you talking about, Andy? I mean, we just deal with it because it's very common, or it's very uncommon, like that they go too far. Like usually it's 1 or 2 edits, but if they go past that, we just do it until they're happy, typically, just because it doesn't happen more common.
No extra cost, right?
Yeah, for free. You know, we just take care of it. How do you find VAs? Bryce, there's a website called onlinejobs.ph that's like a marketplace. It's like indeed.com, but for virtual assistants. And it's .ph, like Philippines, because there's a big, they call it BPO industry, business process outsourcing industry there. Oh, okay, Cameron, you're getting with your coach Monday. Perfect. Cameron, if you also come to my, you do need to get into more group calls for sure. Come to my group call on Tuesday. Go in the group calls list and just RSVP to some and just make sure to show up to them. There's so much value in those, by the way, but I'll look out for your question on Tuesday and we can just go through it on Zoom, obviously, where we can go back and forth and screen share and stuff. Okay, let's see. Preston said, did I just skip a question you had pinned, Rod?
I was clicking. No, you're good.
Preston said, do the coaches know the applications programs and can they assist in learning the ropes? Yes, Preston. So depends on how specific of a question, but we have it covered either way. So if the coach doesn't know, like for Spiro, I'll give you an example. Our coaches know how to use Spiro, but if there's like a really tech question, we have a group call every week with the founder of Spiro that's in there that you can go to. So you try to like create all the resources where you're never like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. Okay, how do you deal with agents?
I like that name, by the way. That's powerful.
How do you deal with agents not wanting to join your funnel? Like after you call them asking for a free shoot and they say yes. Yeah, I mean, sometimes they say yes just to get you off the phone. And so they're always going to kind of like smoke screen you that way. But a lot of time it's just making it easy and just being like, if they have a shoot right now, just booking it right then. Or just asking for the address and what time. Like it depends on what so if you give me a specific scenario, I can help, but it's sometimes a smoke screen and the goal or the workaround is really just to make it easy as possible. But I don't know if that's what you're asking, so sorry about that. Do you have a training session on bookkeeping? That's my main concern. Yeah, so I don't on like YouTube. It's obviously a big part of what we do in coaching. So we have a full bookkeeping training, and then you can actually get on a group call every week with the bookkeeper I use at my business named David. But again, I don't say like in coaching, so I don't have anything on the front end for that just because it's kind of specific to you. Yeah,
we gotta be careful. We gotta be careful on our words sometimes on that side a little bit, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't just be like
doing accounting advice real quick and
yeah, it depends on the specific scenario a little bit.
Great question though, Marco.
Yeah. What do you guys think about offering marketing media services, things like creating social media posts for clients, new listing and pending? Yeah, so I highly recommend you don't do it. Jeff talked about focus a lot, and this is one of those things that I think is a distraction to the core business. And the reason I say distraction and not additional opportunity is because it's just a lot of work for not a lot of money and agents don't want to pay a lot for it typically. So you'll see a lot of people try this. They'll start doing 15, 20K a month and they'll be like, you know what? The best way to get to 50K a month is do a whole nother business where I do this. And then they usually drop that business long-term. So I'm just not the biggest fan of it. I think it's much better just to focus on the simple. There's a lot of the things that make real estate media are awesome are like a very specific set of things. It's easily repeatable, right? You can do multiple in a day. You can train somebody to do it. You can get a lot of clients doing it. The same agents use you over and over again. That doesn't apply with the other stuff as much. So I'm a way over on the side of don't even try it is my approach. As someone who's
Gene. Just want to say hey to Gene. All right. And hey, Christina. When I see familiar names, I get excited. Sorry.
Also struggling with pricing. A lot of agents want a bunch of photos of a small home apartment for super cheap. Yeah, I mean, you just charge. I like to charge per photo. So they want a bunch of photos. So it doesn't matter the size of the house, right? We have a flat rate for 40 photos. They can use it on a big house. They can use it in a small house. That's how I look at it. Let's see. Does Spiro create marketing kit for clients? Yes, it does. Every listing that's included with Spiro, you pay the way Spiro charges you is there's no monthly fee. It's just $5 a project. And as part of that $5, you get a marketing kit. All right, we got to find 2 or 3 more good questions here.
I saw this one. 2 or 3 after that. This one. Yeah.
I'll allow it. Rod's doing your guys' bargaining. I like that. Owen said, at what point should I consider getting into Ford? I just hit 10K for the first time this month. I feel like I'm gonna hit a wall of experience and get stuck. Yeah, I mean, without just sounding like you should, I don't want to just sound like I'm selling you, but the goal with Forward is we start with you. I mean, ideally a little bit before where you are now, and that's fine, but we're gonna help you scale and hire. So you're right in that sweet spot of like, you definitely should be looking at it. So I mean, I would say now.
And they also, this Rashad Penn Photography also asked if coaching helps outside of the US.
Yes. So it depends on the market. We have a guarantee in our coaching program, and guarantee aside, ethically, I only want to work with areas where we know the market and how it works. And so, yes, we do outside of the US. It is specific country dependent. We want to look into it with you first. If it's a new country we haven't served anybody in, we need to do a little more research. But like, heads up, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. What European countries are we sure with, Rod? Like Germany,
Germany,
UK,
any in the UK.
Yeah. I mean, talk to the team for sure.
Book in with the team, and we do have automation that if someone books in not in those areas, it will delete the call and it will email you, and then you just tell to talk to the team if that happens.
I'll just do the link in the chat for you, so talk with them. Oh, Rod, look at us. We were both on it. Except you did
mine's got the HTTPS in it.
Listen, I'll delete mine. That's better. Yeah, what if I banned myself? Would it kick me out of here? I don't know.
Please don't do. Let's try it later.
Yeah, Jay Hart. No, I appreciate the question. It's not that I don't want to answer it here. It's just it depends on where you're at in your business. If you're just starting, if you already have a business, like what the scope is. And so book in and talk with us about it. We just have different options. It's like anything that's more custom. There's not just like here you go. It's like, what do you want? And so book in. Let's see.
There's a lot of coaching questions, which I love, which I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's good.
Is your coach program just for building a real estate photo business? Are you teaching how to be a coach? Yeah, we're very, we focus only on real estate media. So we won't even help you with anything that's even kind of related. Like, it has to be just our core thing, because we want to focus on one thing and be the best at that and not go wide. And I think, there's a lot of coaching programs, not for real estate media, but just in general, that don't get people good results. And the reason is because they just want everybody's money. So they're like, you know what, photo assets, sure, I'll take your money, come in, we'll do. And it's like, no. There's a customer group we serve, and it's people who want to start real estate media businesses that model like ours in the areas we can serve in. And we say no to everything else. Anyway, let's see. I was laughing at this one. Well, speaking of that, dude, that was an awesome one with Jeff. I was like, not that our other guests haven't been great, but he's just easy to talk to and has a bunch of great. You know what's interesting about him? You can tell he's done a lot of personal development. So the way he speaks is through the phrases and languages of people that are really successful, and those phrases have made those people successful because they're easy to understand, and so it's just a good conversation. So anyway.
It's been I'm an evolution of character fan. Like, any movies about someone evolving over the course of the movie or the seasons. And just my first conversation with Jeff and our notes, and just to see where he's at now and how he's inspiring others. I don't know. I don't want to get all warm and fuzzy on everybody, but this business is cool. I mean, it really is. I've been around a lot of other businesses, and they're great. And it's just this one, when you look at the numbers and margins and all that, it's great. But just how you could serve people and help these agents who have really stressful lives, and you're that peaceful part of their day. And just to be able to provide media that helps get people into a home that they're going to live in, the biggest purchase of their life, you're helping facilitate for people. And just the people you meet, the friendly network in your area, not the competition, but the friendly network in your area, and the people in our community and people in these lives, and you, Eli. And I don't know, it's just, again, I don't want to get all warm and fuzzy, but I am. But this business is cool, and it's just cool what it
really is
how it's unfolded. So, thank you.
I like you say that because I've just been doing it so long. I'm used to it.
You're numb to it at this point.
Yeah. It's a great industry. So.
I'm like, it's awesome.
Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate it, and we love the chance to work with you in coaching. I know, I don't want to sound just like a pitch, but if you feel you like us, you've learned a lot from my content, and you want to work with us more in depth, we'd love the opportunity to help you either launch your business in our launch program or forward scale your business, hire a team, and turn it from a high paying job into an asset that works without you, or with less of you in the middle stage. So yeah, we'd love the opportunity to work with you, and appreciate you being here on a Thursday, hanging out with us. We sometimes take it for granted, but we don't mean to, because we surely enjoy that we get to do this for a living. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you very soon. See you later.
Thank y'all. Bye, everybody.